Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode of Last Minute Laura. My name is Laura, and today I'm going to start another natural dye experiment. Well, to be honest, I already started it, but I thought I should bring you along because even though we've done it before, every single color is magic, and I want to show you how I'm making them. So for today's project, I'm going back to the black walnut. So we have tons of trees around the farm right now, and all of them are filling up, and the walnuts themselves are getting bigger, meaning more fruity, pulpy part. So I figured more color. So I went on a little foraging expedition yesterday with Alex, and we collected a ton. We've got a whole other basket back there. So I'm going to be doing tons of walnut stuff this week, basically. What I want to do for today's project, I'm going to dye 3 different skeins with the walnut dye that I'm making. What I want to do is 3 different mordants. So for the one skein, I'm going to do no mordant at all. It's just going to have been washed and scoured, so all of the oil will be off the wool. For the second skein, I'm going to use alum and cream of tartar as the pre-mordant. And for this third skein, I'm going to use iron water solution that I homemade. If you don't know what that is and you want to learn a little bit more about iron water solution, check out my video. I'll link it down below. It's just how I make it. It's a homemade pre-mordant that you can make at home really easily. So there's that. So I want to see what happens with those 3 different skeins. I did a little tie-dye fun on the skeins because I want to see even more than just variation. I want to see beautiful yarn in the end. So I used some fabric and I tied in different spots along the skein of yarn. I have 2 of them already in a pot with soapy water. I'm going to add this one to the pot next, and then I'm going to let them sit there for about half of an hour until the bubbles barely become a simmer and all of the soap starts to just look a little dingy, a little gray. That means all of the oils will be leaching out of the wool, and it'll be ready for the first one to be dyed and for the second and third one to be pre-mordanted. So if you want to do this project at home, some of the things that you should have include walnuts, of course, and at this time of year they are harder, so you might not be able to get through them with a knife. You might need a hammer. That's what I did. I smashed them open on the driveway. Hopefully the stains on the driveway wash away. Also, you're going to need some gloves. I recommend nitrile gloves just because they don't let anything come through them. And I mean, I have a little bit of staining on my hands, but that's probably from human error, not from the gloves. You'll also need some soap. pH neutral dish soap is the best thing to use, but honestly, any dish soap is good. You just want to get all the oils out of that yarn before you dye it. You'll also need your mordants, whatever you're using. Something to hang up the yarn after you've dyed it, just to hang to dry. I love these S-hooks. Actually, the owner of the house who was here before us left these behind, and I'm pretty sure they were used to dry things like meats and spices because they're all hung in our cold room. So I'm using them to hang yarn to dry. Also, you'll need some kind of measuring device. I'm using 1 cup of iron mordant for my project, so I have a 1 cup measurement. And you'll need some yarn. My skeins are all Briggs & Little wool. That's 100% Canadian wool, which I love. I'm using 2 in sport weight. No, I'm using 2 in their regal weight and 1 in their sport weight. The sport weight I'm going to do no mordant at all, and then the other 2 I'm going to do with the iron and the alum. I'm using bleached white for all 3 just to see the brightest colors that we can get from it. So the walnuts are already smashed up. I'm going to add them to a big huge pot on the stove and cover it with water. Fun fact, I'm using rainwater again. I'm very happy to have this little storage spot of rainwater in my dye kitchen, and every time it rains I just fill up the little tote. And now I can do natural dyeing with rainwater. It's just like a fun, whimsical fairy thing that I have wanted to do for a while, and I'm very happy to be able to do it. But I'm going to start with that. I'm going to put the yarn into the soapy water pot, and I'm going to put the walnuts into the dye bath pot. So, after all that, let's go do it. Okay, so it's been about half an hour now and the water is looking dingy. It's not clear anymore. The soap bubbles have all but disappeared, and the yarn is ready to have that soap rinsed out. So I'm going to rinse out the soap out of these 2 skeins of yarn, and then I'm going to set up my pre-mordants. Okay, so for the first pot, I'm going to be doing alum and cream of tartar as the pre-mordant. That's going to be the pot in the back, and I'm going to dissolve the alum in there first before I add the yarn. The yarn is all in the sink getting ready to get rinsed out, but I want to just have this dissolved in there first. I'm using about a tablespoon of alum powder and about a quarter of a tablespoon of cream of tartar. For my other skein, I'm going to be pre-mordanting with my iron water solution, and I'm going to be adding 1 cup of that. Okay, and those are going to just sit there and dissolve while I rinse out the yarn. Now that the yarn is clean and free of soap, I'm going to add it into the mordants. And those are going to sit there now for about an hour, hour and a half. And at that point, I'm thinking that the dye bath is going to be ready to have the walnut pieces strained out. The third skein, the one that I'm not doing any pre-mordant on at all, I'm just leaving it in warm water in the sink until the other 2 skeins are ready. Okay friends, so it's been about an hour, just a little over an hour, and my yarn is ready to come out of the pre-mordants, get totally rinsed out. I want to get all of the pre-mordant out of the wool, and then it's ready to sit in the dye bath. So the next step is kind of a 2-parter. I need to rinse out the yarn really, really well, get all of the mordant that I can rinsed out with water, and then I have to filter out the walnut pieces out of the big dye bath. After all the walnut is out of that dye bath, I'll add the skeins into the dye bath, all 3 skeins, which have been pre-mordanted with 3 different things, and we'll let it sit there on a low heat for about half an hour, just until it comes back up to a very, very low simmer. Then I'll turn the heat down and let it sit for the rest of the day. But first, I'm going to rinse my yarn. Also, I'm going to keep this liquid for a future dye bath. It still has iron in it, so I'm just going to use it to mordant another skein of wool. Okay, so now I'm going to start scooping out the walnut bits into a strainer. I feel like I have a better option for this. I totally do. I have this reusable fabric bag, and this is going to work to strain out all of the walnuts for sure. Way better. Jeez, that was like a whole ordeal. Now that the bits of walnut are are filtered out of the dye pot, I've got them in a green bin to be put in the compost. I'm going to add the pre-mordanted yarn one at a time. Amazing. Alum. Okay, so now we've got our 3 yarns happily sitting in the dye. I'm going to turn that dye pot on to medium-low, and I'm going to let it come up to a very low simmer. I'll show you what it's looking like at that point, and I'm going to clean up this mess. Okay, so the dye and the wool have been sitting together in this big giant pot for just a little over half an hour now. The dye pot is steaming, but it is not simmering. There was no bubbles of simmer. I kept it just below that. And now it's time to transfer these wool skeins into the dye bath receptacle. But first, I want to mix in one extra thing. I figured we'll throw in the extra variable of wood ash solution, which is a homemade alkaline afterbath product that I've made. And if you want to learn how to make that, let me know in the comments below and I'll show you in another video. But I'm going to add about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of wood ash solution to one side of the dye bath. And that is going to make one side alkaline. And I want to see if that'll make any color change for all 3 skeins. So I'm going to be putting all 3 skeins in 2 baths. One that has nothing added to it and one that has about 1/4. Probably I'm going to do 1/2 cup of the wood ash solution. So I'm going to add the wood ash solution first before I start ladling in the dye from the bath. So we'll do 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup. And I'm thinking that should shift the colors in some way that might be beautiful. Now I'm going to take my measuring cup and just distribute the dye between the 2 baths, doing my best to keep it even. Okay, so now I've got the 2 different dye baths here mixed up, and I'm going to start bringing the wool and putting it halfway in each dye bath. I'm not 100% sure that this idea is going to work perfectly yet, but I'm hopeful. I'm trying to think of what I could do to prevent the leakage that's going to happen. Maybe I can just be lucky. We'll see.
Yeah, wanna try there.
That took a little bit of time, but it was worth it. I now have 2 dip dye baths going, one that has a little bit of added wood ash solution and one that has nothing added. I've got the 3 different skeins, one mordanted in iron, one mordanted in alum, and one not mordanted at all. So we're going to have 6 different colors out of this, which is very exciting for me. I'm very excited to see what the colors look like after they've had a chance to soak up all of that deep dark walnut dye. And what I've done with the remaining walnuts, I put them back into a dye pot and I used that mordant, the iron mordant from the one skein. I added that water to the walnuts and I'm gonna bring that up to a simmer and I'm just gonna do a wild card dye bath. I'm not gonna show you how I'm doing that one, but I'll show you in the end. Oh, the wild card, how it goes. Losing my tripod here. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna leave that for the rest of the day, sitting, simmering, getting ready to be rinsed out tomorrow for hopefully some really crazy brown dyes. I hope the tie-dye works because these colors are looking so dark. I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up. Look at how dark these are already turning out. These parts are not going to be getting any more dye added to them, so that should be as dark as they get. But since these bits are soaking a little bit longer, we might get a darker suck of the dye in that. Look how dark brown, that's nearly black. Oh, I'm very excited for this. And then on this side, we're getting a little bit of a red hue coming through with some of the brown, or it feels kind of reddish to me. I'm wondering how that'll affect that dark, dark brown black, if it's gonna come out reddish. And that is from the alkaline, oh, we lost a tag in there. That is from the alkaline afterbath that we added some of the wood ash for. So we'll see what it does, but I'm already very happy with all 3 of the colors. So I'll see you tomorrow when it's time to wash it out. Da, 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 da. So it's the next day now. Sorry about the lighting. It's like a rainy day, so the lighting might be a little off. But look at how dark it looks right now. We've got 3 completely different colors. We've got like a yellowy brown, a blackish brown, and then like a reddish brown. I'm gonna rinse these out. They've been sitting all night long. So I'm thinking we're gonna get some really dark, beautiful colors in here. So I'm gonna get that started. Let's do it. So all of the yarn is now washed out. As you can see, I've got some stained fingers from the process. Worth it. Now the yarn is going to sit in my cold room hanging on a clothesline for the rest of the day. I can't hang it outside today because today it is raining, which is why the lighting again is a little bit off. Oh my goodness, my fingers are like dark. I don't know if the camera picks it up quite how weird they look. They're like dirty. Anyway, I should have wore gloves. Wear gloves. But anywho, I'm gonna leave them hanging for the rest of the day, and in the morning tomorrow, hopefully this rain will be done and I'll be able to show you the final look of the skein. I'll give you just a sneak peek of what my cold room looks like, but like it's like a dark basement room, so you're not gonna see the colors of the yarn so well, but just so you could see how I've got them hanging. Okay friends, so if you'll remember, we started with this Briggs & Little bleached white. And look at what we ended up with! Oh my god, are you serious? Just look at these colors. They're all so vibrant and amazing. I'm totally in love. The more muted brown skein is the one that was scoured only. The bright orange brown was scoured and then pre-mordanted in alum and cream of tartar. The darkest brown ever was scoured and then pre-mordanted in iron water before dyeing. Aren't they wonderful? Also, check out this last one. It was just a wild card. I scoured the wool, then added it to the second round dye bath, which had been mixed with both pre-mordants from the previous dye baths. I don't really understand what I did either, but this color is really magical and I figured you'd want to see. I was honestly giddy when I twisted up these lovelies. You can see the cream-colored spots from where I did the tie-dyeing. The iron skein is so dark it almost has a purpley tinge. Don't you think? Here are the skeins next to some turkey feathers to give you some possible name inspiration. And hey, don't forget to like the video to support the channel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos every day. Yes, you heard me right. Every single day you can find me here. Monday to Friday, I live stream from 7 a.m. Eastern Time until around 8:30 a.m. Then on Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I release edited videos like this. Well, sometimes they're like this, sometimes it's crochet, sometimes it's dyeing, sometimes it's any other creative thing I feel inspired to make and film. Anyway, I would love if you joined me on the journey. So, that's all I've got for you today, friends. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching this video I made of myself experimenting with plants to dye wool. I love showing you the things I make. Anyway, see you tomorrow.